or danger will follow us. Like the tables will go over and people will fall down, and we don't want that. So before we get started, though, I have a couple of little comments, that I was doing a little bit of history, if I can find it in my notes here. Is there some music here that is accompanying us? What? I think we need the music off, Oh, no, no, Jaime's taking. All right, but I can talk over the music, but we can't when it comes to our sing-along. So Pier 55 is where we are today. It's at the foot of Spring Street, as we all know, and it was originally named Pier 4. The first Pier 4 was built in 1900. It collapsed in September of 1901, causing the loss of at least 1,700 tons of freight. Luckily, there weren't any people lost at that point. No one was killed in the accident, and the following year, the Northern Pacific Railroad, some of us do, it completed a new Pier 4, this time with better bracing, which survives today. Realize we're on a 1901 pier here. Oh, well, its first tenant was the Arlington Dock Company, which was a shipping agent for passenger steamships to several West Coast cities and to Alaska, Asia, and Europe. In 1912, the pier was the terminal for the local steamboat lines running to Paulsbo. The pier was used for passenger service until around World War I. The Fisheries Supply Company became the principal tenant from at least 1938 to the 1980s. And in 1945, the pier was remodeled. Well, I think the top of it was, not the bottom, so be careful. But it does say structural improvements were made, and in the 1960s, an engineering firm did some further improvements. And during World War II, it was renamed as Pier 55. And as you all know, it's the headquarters for Argosy Tours and a few stores and Starbucks. And with that, I'm going to ask that our songsters come forward.
Thank you. Here at Seattle 4, we open with music to unite us. And speaking of history, the Husky Games, at the Husky Games, they also unite in song, and their famous award-winning fight song written in 1915 for a game with California, We Will Do Today. So 110 years later, please join with the Rotary Rogues in Bow Down to Washington.
Down, Washington. Time to go. I believe we got team in the holiday. And the family are the help the coast was. We have to be right in Washington. And the bells, the fighting body bells, it's harder to put them over the line than that's the original. You're being right in the wars. And we're in the rock, and the Lord, the glorious stand, but it wants to be forever. Bye. have those watching. And the behind bars. I mean, I know. I didn't want to come over the line past the Cardinals. Victory for Washington. Together with rock, rock, rock. For the land of Troy stand with the swing of glory of Washington. Does anybody remember the Dardanelles? That's right.
Well, that was really good. I want to thank the Rotary Rogues for all of that. It's just, it brings back memories from all of the Husky games that I got to attend, etc. And listen to my parents do the same song because they went to school at the U in the 1940s. And I did it in the 1970s. And my God, oh well. Yeah, and it's still there after 100 years plus, the same song. All right, enough of that. I want to thank Susan Safir for greeting, and Logan Riley, and Jevon, thank you so much for directing people to the right entrance. I think we would have had some real problems otherwise. I want to welcome all of our guests. And we have them, their names on the board. If there's anyone else, please announce yourself or not. Given that, I'm going to ask Nicole to come forward. Nicole Klein is going to come forward. Obviously, she has a position at the university too. This is University Day, right? It's all you, Dub. All right. Well, you are going to introduce our short program.
Okay. Thank you. I'm here today, yes, with my UW hat on, but also to introduce Sarah Smith right here, who will be our short program. She's the founder and executive director for Sawhorse Revolution. So all the postcards on your table are courtesy of the work that her and staff and these youth have done over the last 10 years. And she's going to give you a few slides and some facts about it. But the reason I know Sarah is because of the Shell House, as you know, my enduring project for the last 8 years. When I was trying to understand how this project, when it's done, will help community and foster relationships with possibly boat building, possibly woodworking. I came across Sarah, I think through the Wood Technology Center. Someone there said, oh, you need to meet Sarah. We toured, she was in the Pocock shop, and we got, the goosebumps. This is a space that could inspire students. And George understood working with wood and the value of that. And I just felt like I'll keep track of this one. And I did. And over the last few years, then she asked me to be on the board. So I'm now a new member on their really productive board. And I wanted you guys to learn about them. So introducing Sarah. She, her is an educator, a Jill of many trades, and co-founder of Sawhorse Revolution. She received her BA in English Literature from the University of Puget Sound. Anyone in here? Puget Sound? Nobody. Oh! Graduated in 2008, and thanks to the Great Recession, realized the importance of hands-on skills training. And since then, she's been working to develop career-connected experiential learning programs for youth. Sarah studied neuroscience and education and received a master's in education from the Harvard Graduate School of Education in 2012. Woo! And she has been working at Sawhorse since graduating. So please welcome Sarah.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to be with a group that's super engaged in community. We do have a UW connection. We work with the College of Built Environments over the summer to do a sort of college access program with our youth. So we're really excited about that. We'll be running that again. This year, we built pollinator villages for the Burke Meadow. Due to some admin, they're still not installed, but that's just how it goes with permitting, and those pollinators can't wait to move in one of these days. But yeah, Sawhorse Revolution, we're a Seattle-based nonprofit that teaches high school students construction and architecture through community projects. I'm gonna figure out where to point this thing. Whoop. Oh, I gotta turn it on. That would help. Okay, beautiful. At Sawhorse, our model is really simple. Young people team together with professional carpenters and architects to create real projects for their communities. And this is a career-connected learning experience, but we're not just about getting teenagers to become carpenters or architects now. We're really a youth development program. Nothing builds your sense of confidence like actually designing and creating a structure that lands in your own community, becoming part of the history and the living fabric of our city, as well as using a power tool. Honestly, mastering that makes you feel pretty good about yourself. So Sawhorse is all about cohort team-based education. We work with high school students furthest from educational justice, and we work really hard to make our programs accessible to youth. We go into schools, we work largely in the South End. Our programs involve a stipend because some free programs are too expensive for youth, and community service hours, great snacks, and then we provide access to transportation, mentorship, and of course a creative project that helps students come back again and again. And because of the work we do, that means that our job sites and our architecture studios don't look much like your typical construction job site today. For example, carpenters nationwide are 80% white and 99% male, but Sawhorse Youth are 83% youth of color and over half young women and non-binary. So yeah, thank you. We work really hard to just make sure that any student who wants access to creativity, to making an impact in their community, to a well-paid, fulfilling career can take those steps and that those doors are open to them. We started as a summer camp back in 2010. My friends and I started it. I graduated college from University of Puget Sound with a degree in 18th century poetry. Quickly, yeah, nobody would hire me to do that. So I learned that was not a job skill. And instead, my friends and I were volunteering on a farm and got really inspired about the possibilities of hands-on learning. I learned to build by doing a lot of demo. And so our first project was this octagonal tree house 30 feet off the forest floor. And it kind of set the model for Sawhorse going forward. All of our projects are collaborative, they're creative, they really inspire you to push yourself and to answer that age-old question, why are we learning this? It's always because we are building something real with real tools for the community. We also, after our first pilot, were encouraged to continue because, as you can see, we live in a world where shop class and tools are not really available to young people anymore. Seattle Public Schools has cut all but 4 shop classes in the last 30 years. So if you're a young person in the city of Seattle, it's just highly likely that you will graduate school without having ever picked up a tool. You'll never have the chance to know if that's something you loved or, Sawhorse is here to work on that. We've been busy. Since inception, we've built 75 projects with 1,500 students served and counting, and over 100 community partners. Because we were like one of the first groups to do tiny houses. We're a founding member of the first tiny house village. So our young people have helped provide dignified bridge housing for 200 individuals. We've created thousands of square feet of community space. And though we're not a jobs program, we do find that about 1 in 15 and even 1 in 10 students goes on to take the next step into the architecture and construction industries. So it's just, all you have to do is give them the chance. It's very hands-on, it's very experiential. And I'd love to show just a few of the results of our students' action and all of their hard work. As I mentioned, we always do mentorship with professional carpenters and architects, so very relationship-based, just to show you a little bit of our range. This is a shade shelter at Seattle Housing Authority. Which is really special because it is designed and built by students who live in that neighborhood. So the students who are designing and building live right down the street and know that their neighborhood needs something for shade so that the elder gardeners can hang out in the shade and that when they're playing basketball, they can have somewhere to commune. And this is a project designed with the mentors from Olson Kundig and then builders from Dow Built. So we're really trying to do like very high-end structures that create a sense of place and that allow young people to say, I was here, and to point at it and to say, I did that. We also, as mentioned, we have a wooden boat building program. This is one of our most popular programs. Students just love to use tools. And in this case, this was the first boat we ever built. It's an Ed Monk skiff. It's a classic Pacific Northwest boat, and the boat was donated to a group doing Duwamish River cleanup. So it's assisted in cleaning over 20 tons of trash from the Duwamish River. And as one of the students said, there's nothing quite like working all summer to build a boat and then go rowing out onto the river on it. It was a life-changing experience. And that's the kind of thing we want to do. We want to show, if you work hard, when you work hard, collaboratively, creatively, you can actually make a difference. This is another project we just finished this year. It's another Seattle Housing Authority project. And when I asked one of the students at the design presentation, they always present to their clients, what are you excited about for this project? What did you learn? He looked at me and he said, I'm just so excited for my sister to be able to use this. I grew up in this park and we never had anything like this. We had to sit in the mud. This fence is right by a basketball court, and those basketballs roll down into a busy street. And so he just said, I can't wait for them to be able to hang out, watch a basketball game safely. And it's just testament, young people actually know what is needed in their neighborhood. What Sawhorse does is provide the tools, the materials, literally the tools to make their visions come true. And just a few more, this is one you might have seen. This is in the Central District, just to show our range. This is Estelitas Library, Race and Social Justice Bookstore and Library. This is a multi-year project with permits. We had to, do everything, fight with the city and negotiate with Seattle Public Utilities, but we're able to turn an unbuildable piece of city property, a snippet, into a thriving community center, all designed and built by young people, in fact, by an all-women's program. And then just because sometimes we like to have fun, this is another summer camp project. This is a dream archive. And, just to show the effects of young people and what we can do if we creatively work together. What is a dream archive? Well, that's where you write your dreams and you put them in a bottle and store them. So it's much more about the possibilities of the imagination. And the whole structure is designed to be an educational project. So there are tall ribs in there, like a boat's ribs. And then there's hand tools. Those are hand-cut cedar shakes on the outside. There's fine furniture making in the carved door. And then it's on a welded trailer that you can't quite see. But yeah, we really want young people to be able to experience a variety of skills. This is probably our least community impact project, but I just love it because it's so cute. So we do all of this with a mighty staff of 8. Our staff have degrees in architecture, construction, decade plus experience in community organizing, masters in education beyond just me. So it's a small and mighty team that makes all of this happen. We're always doing cool projects. I'd love to take you on a tour, grab a coffee. We've got a QR code, and then I put some postcards on the table so you guys can remember us and learn more. But thank you so much for your time, and
Thanks a lot, Sarah. That's superb. And it's really good to see that boat that they constructed was floating and not sinking. And, I love the idea that you're giving the kids, especially here in Seattle and the Seattle schools, an opportunity to do some of that woodworking. I had that opportunity when I was in 7th grade, and believe me, I learned that I don't ever want to do that. Yeah, it was an opportunity. I got a real good grade in the woodworking class. And the only reason I did is because the teacher couldn't keep the books. I kept the books, and he was very happy. Oh, well, enough of that. It's really time right now for our main program, and I want to call Mark Wright up to honcho the program with Damon and with Joe Knight. And I did find out Damon, of course, is from Puyallup. I imagine you went to Puyallup High School. And I do have to let everybody know that Joe went to Roosevelt. I went to Garfield. We just have to keep that in mind. Thank you, Jan. Yeah, there were 2 bulldogs over there. We're all dogs though, right? Right. All right, come on up, Mark, before I take over the whole program here.
Thanks, John.
Let me just rearrange the stage a little bit. Thank you. And Damon and Joe, come on up.
Sure.
There we go. Check, check, check. 1, 2. Hey, greetings, fellow Rotarians. President John, wherever he is. So this is going to be a really interesting topic. Welcome to our panel discussion on the future of college athletics in the age of name, image, and likeness. You've probably heard the term NIL over and over and over for the past couple of years. It's having a seismic impact on collegiate sports, but not just NIL. There's other changes happening in collegiate sports that are radically changing what it means to not only participate in sports, but also how those sports are presented to the rest of us fans. And I should say our two guests did not look at the screen once during the singing of Bow Down to Washington. They know that song inside and out. And as a Washington State University Cougar, it hurt a little bit to hear the song, but I'm going to set those aside. I use a couple of different chatbots, AI chatbots for my work. And as I was preparing for this, I said, give me a joke, an icebreaker joke for this panel on the future of college athletics. And the AI bot actually said, it didn't recommend doing a joke at risk of offending the panelists. So AI is a little smarter than for me, but I just remember hearing jokes like, hey, what did the Wazoo grad say after graduation? You want?
Can I take your order, please?
Yeah. Do you want fries with that? So I was going to try to find a way to get back at these guys, but I can't. All right, let me introduce the guys. Damon Heward, you probably know very well. He's the Director of Community and External Engagement at the UW. He's a former national champion quarterback for the Huskies. He played from 91 to 95. Damon went on to enjoy a 12-year career in the NFL, two-time Super Bowl champion with the New England Patriots during 02 and 04. His daughter Brooke is a UW sophomore playing volleyball for the Dogs, and as you heard, a proud Puyallup native. Joe Knight is Executive Director of Dogs Unleashed, which is UW's name, image, and likeness department, right? And he is a multi-sport athlete who competed in both track and field and men's basketball at the University of Washington. He graduated in 2016. Seattle native, graduated from Roosevelt, as President John said. As I mentioned, the landscape of college athletics is really massively changing right now. And I'd love for each of you guys to just kind of give us a benchmark, a setting for, it's being called the Wild West right now. How wild is it? And how has college sports changed since when you guys played?
Great question. First off, in light of all the change, I don't tell my Cougar jokes anymore. I mean, right? I mean, obviously with what's happened with the conference realignment and where the Cougars are, and it's not a lot of fun. I feel for you guys. It's a crazy time, as you said. But before I answer your question, I want to say thank you, because are there any season ticket holders, any Tye members, any Huskies in here? Raise your hand, right? Anytime. Thank you. Literally, it does not happen at the University of Washington on Montlake without your generosity and support. So thanks for all that you guys do for Husky athletics, and hell of a job singing that fight song. Goosebumps always. But a lot of fun to be here today. And yes, Mark, you're right. I mean, this is a crazy time in college athletics. More has changed in the last 4 years than probably the previous 25, 30. Not only with name, image, and likeness, conference realignment, transfer portal. I mean, it is the Wild West. And it is the Wild West because of litigation. And the NCAA at one time, when I was a student athlete, and maybe even when Joe was as young as he is, they could give us a bagel, but if you put cream cheese on it, it constituted as a meal. And that was an NCAA violation. Okay. If you wanted to hang out with a donor or meet a donor, it was documented. And twice a year, you could go have dinner over at, John Doe donor's house. Now, with litigation and rules, every court in America said, yeah, this isn't right. And let's start with name, image, and likeness, because at its core, it is a really good thing, right? Okay. So let's give this example. Let's say Michael Penix won the Heisman Trophy. And let's say he did it his junior year at the University of Washington. And let's say Dr. Pepper called him up and wanted to be a part of the commercials that Dr. Pepper does, or whoever else. I think it's Nissan with the Heisman House, right? All those fun things. In the old days with rules, like, yeah, sorry, you can't do that, Mike. I know you won the Heisman Trophy, but that's against the NCAA rules. So at its core, the NCAA, every court in America said, yes, student athlete, you can now use your name, your image, and likeness to go sell a jersey, to go do a commercial. You're right. In America, we can't tell you can't do that. But what happened was collectives, donors, people got smart. Let's pool our money. And it became pay for play. And so that's kind of where all the controversy and question marks and everyone, it gets kind of crusty, because some of these schools can do that sort of thing and others couldn't. Now, I will say, and I think you have more questions about this, and Joe might even be better than me with the whole NIL thing, is this is going to change. July 1, okay, it's going to go into rev share. All right? Rev share means at the University of Washington, we bring in $170 million a year as an athletic department. Now, I will tell you, we pay about $169 million to operate 22 sports and 650 student athletes and their scholarships and all the coaches and the travel and everything else that goes with it. But of that $170 million, now $20 million needs to be paid to those student athletes who are generating that revenue. So July 1, that will start. NIL, players using their name, image, and likeness, and maybe it's kind of been the Wild West with regards to collectives and donors pooling their money. Now that too is going to come in-house. It was separate from the athletic department. Montlake Futures, maybe you heard about that. Separate, now coming in-house. And actually it too is going to be sort of governed by Deloitte, I believe. And Deloitte is literally going to say, like, these deals these kids are doing with NIL has to be market value. So there is some rules coming into play, but we're still about 5-6 months out. So Joe, you can jump in here with me as well, because Joe is our NIL expert. And it is crazy, and maybe all of you guys are like, I don't like these guys getting paid. They should be student athletes. But the reality is there is so much big money involved in this. And literally 2 or 3% of these kids go on to play professional football, professional sports. When coaches are making $10 million a year, okay? Now $15 million a year, that $170 million is going to be paid to our football team. And if you have 85 scholarship players and you divide the math by them and you gave it all equally, which we're not going to do, but that'd be about $180,000 a player. And for each kid generating this crazy revenue for this school and the TV money coming in, it's not a bad deal. So I hate people to think it the wrong way, but where it got a little crazy is just these last couple years without governance and rules. And Joe, you take it from there.
I would say the crux of it is that it's this enterprise of college athletics has just gotten so financially massive in the last 2-3 decades, and everything is kept up. Coaches comp, the arms race that is facilities, TV, networks, everything except the lack of student athlete compensation. So this is their opportunity, and I'm so excited that regulations are coming that we, the university, can finally pay student athletes really their pro rata share of the television and conference earnings. And then, like Damon said, we'll be able to represent, regulate, and protect our student athletes in a fair market in pursuit of additional NIL. So that's where we're headed. It's been Wild Wild West for 4 years. We've been pounding our fists and begging for a guidance, rules, regulations, federal uniformity, you name it. And it does seem like that's coming on July 1. So we're excited.
So what I think is interesting is that there's always been big money in college athletics, always has been there. But in the old days, the coaches and the universities got paid well. And the guys actually taking the hits and doing the training and putting in hours and hours and hours didn't get anything. So I think in that sense, you have a lot of support that the people actually doing the effort are now going to get compensated for that.
Yeah, I mean, every court in the land just was like, yeah, no, you can't. These student athletes deserve a piece of the pie. And yes, they get an education, and yes, they've gotten a scholarship, and yes, they've gotten, you know, good meals and all the resources and things to be successful. But you know, you can't. They've never been paid, and it is the right thing to do. It really is.
So, Joe, who decides how much money goes to who? How much of the TV contract money? And I'm guessing there's no limit on a star athlete, you know, doing commercials and all that stuff. But who decides? I think everybody's wondering, how does the breakdown get really determined?
So that $20 million coming July 1, that will essentially be the annual salary cap in college athletics, that comes from a federal judge in Northern California. How we spend that $20 million is completely up to us. If we spend that $20 million is completely up to us. Our peers, the Big Ten and the SEC, every school that we consider a peer will opt in full. So to not would be a major competitive disadvantage. So how we plan to divvy the money is football is obviously the massive revenue generator for the Huskies. So that will be paramount. Men's and women's basketball are also revenue generators for the University of Washington, our emerging sports. And then volleyball and softball. We'll offer them a little bit of revenue share to essentially subsidize scholarships. So that's our take on it. I imagine, you know, there's schools that want to lean heavy into football. Title IX is still applicable. There's been some precedent set with this settlement for, say, 75% to go to football, and that's in back pay through the settlement, and that's also in the revenue share moving forward. But the way we're doing it seems fairly common nationwide, I'd say.
So that you're actually paying the people in the programs that generate the money in the first place.
Correct. Yeah. And so that would be what, 2 men's sports, 3 women's sports. And as Joe said, you know, roughly 15 million of that 20 will go to football, which really is the, you know, the gorilla in the room that generates the money for the UW athletic department and has paid for all the sports over the years.
Have you guys heard any stories about who's getting a ton of money based on their celebrity, based on doing this NIL stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. And the reality is a lot of this money and a lot of these contracts and a lot of these numbers you see, they aren't real. Okay. You know, you heard of a quarterback out of high school signing with Florida for $12 million. Like literally it was $1 million, you know, but a lot of these schools want to inflate that and bring that attention. Like we have all this money and all these, and so a lot of these numbers are really, really inflated. And I think Joe made a great point. Like not many schools in America are going to be able to get to that $20 million number as an athletic department. You know, obviously, like I said at UW, we got to find somewhere within, you know, our budget to raise this extra money, or, you know, we're not cutting sports, but like, you know, maybe certain coaches aren't going to be able to even be paid as much as they have in the past, or there's going to have to be some cutbacks with regards to travel and different things. And so and it's really challenging at, you know, like, you know, the group, the other than the Power Four, the other folks, you know, they don't have that kind of revenue to pay their student athletes.
Let's talk a little bit about transfer portals. I think I just read that your son signed with USC the last couple of days, or at least committed. I mean, he's got to go where he's got opportunities, right?
Well, okay, I'd love to talk about this transfer portal thing because, you know, it's the same thing that's going to make you laugh is going to make you cry. Okay, it's also one of these things where, to me, the narrative out there is so these kids are greedy. They don't stick it out. You know, in the old days, you couldn't leave, you know. I'm here to tell you about 80% of these kids in the transfer portal, wherever they are told to leave. Oh, yeah. That's the reality that no one talks about. Maybe a few if you're on X and you go down okay, because I'm telling you right now at the University of Washington with 25 guys in the portal, I promise you, a coach in year 2, he told 23 of them, you're not going to play here. You need to find another home. Okay, so that's the reality with the transfer portal. Now, my son's a perfect example. He was, you know, at UW, Michael Penix came with his coach, and Sam wanted to play. Early in your career, if you're a quarterback and you don't play, guess what's going to happen year 3 in the old days when it was your turn to play? They're going to go find someone who's been playing and bring him in here. Okay, so at UW was Michael Penix. And then this last year was Will Rogers, who threw for more yards than anybody in the SEC. But now we got a freshman who's big time and played early in his career and is really the future of Husky football. But when Mike was coming back for his 6th year, my son made the decision, I want to play. Well, where can you go guaranteed to play? Well, he went to Cal Poly. He went down to Cal Poly to play, but also with the intent like, I got to be there for 2 years, then I'm going to transfer back up to the big time my 5th and final year. Well, after year 1, the rules changed. Do you guys remember when the transfer portal first came out, they said you can move 1 time, free pass. Then that got fought, and they said, okay, no, as long as your grades are good, you can transfer. So he transfers last year to Utah and was an opportunity where he thought he was going to be the backup. They had a 6-year guy coming back, and then the season went disarray. He got hurt, and then they fired the offensive coordinator, hired a coach who runs the triple option, and my son is about as fast as me, which isn't fast. And so they told him, like, hey, look, dude, you got no future here in this program with your style of play. You're not a fit with what we're going to do offensively. And they told that to 3 quarterbacks on the Utah roster. So he's back in the portal again. But the beauty of it, I'll say this, is for so many kids who go in the portal and they don't get picked up, they don't get their degree. That's what sucks. My son's got his degree from Cal Poly, but now he's going to USC. He got the year back because of the injury. So he's got 2 years left. And there's not a great path to playing on paper right now. But over the course of 2 years at a big time program, we got some family down there. My brother's the quarterback coach. We'll see where it goes. So, and my daughter works for Jen Cohen in the athletic department. So, there's some cool connections. And it's obviously a storied program. But, I'll tell you this too. My son, probably not going to play in the NFL like I was, if we're being honest, just, the way things are going. But he'd always say early on in his career when it wasn't going great, like, God, Dad, you got this cool journey. You got to go to Miami and play with Dan Marino and Tom Brady and the Patriots. And you and Mom did so many cool things, man. That was so awesome. I never got to, well, I'm like, son, you're on that journey now. You've been to Cal Poly, you've been to Utah, you're going to USC, you got your dream to be a Husky, although it wasn't the greatest playing experience. You were there for 2 years. That's where you grew up as a kid. And he's still a dog. I kid you not. He's a dog. So anyway, he's been on that journey and he's got his degree, and who knows if football is going to work out, but now he can go get his master's at USC and continue to still be involved in the game. So, but the same thing will make you cry, will make you laugh, and so excited when Michael Penix transfers to UW and takes the dogs to the CFP. So, right, like it's good, it's bad, it is what it is. There's not the same, like the kids you came in with in your freshman class, you're going to graduate with and you're going to go through. It's transactional now. That's just what college sports is. But I can tell you, sorry, I'm talking too much. I do that. My wife says that. But that experience, in some weird way, like he's learned so much from just being in one place.
Yeah, it's kind of like life. Joe, one of the unintended consequences of the changes to the transfer portal, my Cougs made a bowl game. I was so excited. I turned on the TV and I'm like, who's that coach? Who's that quarterback? Who are those players? The entire coaching staff and players all left. And so, Joe, is that something the NCAA should fix? Because it seems like the bowl games are something really important to fans.
It's something the NCAA should fix, and I think after this year knows it needs to fix. I mean, the bowl system has been so devalued with the college football playoff and the emergence of the transfer portal and this student athlete empowerment, which, like we've said, is great in many cases. I think with the coaches, there needs to be contracts that you got to play the season out, finish out with a bowl. With student athletes, there needs to be incentives and opportunities for them to stay put and finish with their school, because I think 9 out of 10 of these guys, 10 out of 10 of these guys want to stay and finish the season. It's just, how do you line up with the transfer portal? I mean, if you're a kid right now, your season comes to a close prior to the bowl game, and there's this just quick transfer portal window that you got to get enrolled for January, and you can't blame the kid for jumping in there. We need to give them the ability to finish out what they started, play in the postseason, because that's what you're playing for, and then transfer, relatively seamlessly.
Yeah, and I think there's a great chance that there's going to be one. Right now, there's two transfer portal windows. Joe alluded to the one in December, which is December 8th to the 28th. So it's about a 3-week window that was there, right? And, a coach tells them, December, hey, and they want to get in the portal early because the seats fill up, right? So, if they're told like, hey, look, you're not going to be a part of this thing next year. They want to get in early to figure out the school they're going to. They want to get enrolled by January when school starts so they can be there to learn the new system, work out, be there for spring football, all that great stuff. But to Joe's point, like they're leaving their team in the middle of a bowl season, and academically it's kind of goofy in the middle of the year. So I do believe in time. What's going to happen, there's going to be one transfer portal. And it is going to be in the spring, and it is going to coincide with the academic year, and it is going to make sense. It'll be in May. However, I think this window that there is right now will be available to two types of student athletes. One, those who graduate. If you've graduated, you got your degree, okay. And number two, if there is a coaching change. I think to me, like that'd be fair because, if your coach leaves, he's not even there coaching your bowl. They hire a new coach where you don't fit into the scheme of things. So I could see that first window still being there for if the criteria fits for some of the student athlete. But moving it to May, it's the right thing to do because it is messy.
I want to touch on league realignment before we go to some of your questions. This is a massive shift. The UW is now in the Big Ten. I think the Cougs in Oregon are going to be in the Pac-12 still. Do you think we're going to end up with a massive super league with all the money and all the great players, and then there will be everybody else? Joe, what do you think is going to be the future of league realignment?
It feels almost inevitable that we consolidate in some form or fashion. Now that could be tough. That could be awesome for everyone. If it's 30 teams, if it's 70 teams, that we all get on the same page and go into this 2030 is when this new media cycle will happen. And we all get streaming under our arms together. And we know what linear TV looks like. And, college football is the second largest sports property in the country behind the NFL, of course, but we make significantly less than the NBA. Of course, there's more mouths to feed, but if we were able to say, you want some of us, you take all of us. Now, how many teams is all of us? My hope, and I think a lot of folks' hopes, is that we prioritize regionalization, that we prioritize rivalries, and that the Cougs and the Beavs are still a part of whatever is next. But there's certainly no crystal ball. There's talks, but it's all so preliminary. So we're very happy to be in the Big Ten because it maintains our seat at the table in every which way. But, I think we understand the importance of the Apple Cup. We understand the importance of what really, the Pac-8, the Pac-10, the Pac-12 brought to the table. And really, as an alum, as a Seattleite, my hope is that we can get back to that in some form.
Yeah, we're flying the tennis team to Timbuktu to play a thing is kind of expensive. I want to get to some of the questions. Going to have to be no questions because I thought I had till 18 after. Oh, okay. This has been a pleasure. Let's give these guys a round of applause. Thanks so much.
And if you think this thing is broken, college athletics, maybe some of these things are a little frustrating, but have the games ever been better? Right? I mean, this college football playoff 12-team tournament, the Dogs making it last year, everything going on between the lines is still pretty awesome, especially on Montlake. Thanks for your support. Go Dogs.
In appreciation for your participation today in our program, a donation equal to 600 healthy servings of produce, I'm reading it for once, has been made on your behalf to Harvest Against Hunger.
That's awesome.
So thank you guys very much. This is really interesting and it's very timely right now. Boy, we're right on the cutting edge. All right. I also Sorry about no questions, but we have a rolling program here today. I want to thank REB Enterprises, Carl Benke, Bloodworks Northwest for their sponsorship support. And now, you know, I'm not so good at holding papers when I don't have a podium here. We are going to put up a few things here honoring our 1, 10, and 20-year club anniversary members from July of 2024 through this month. Well, guys, congratulations on your anniversaries. It's good that we at least recognize that we're doing that. And thank Mary for putting that little thing together. That was just, you know, it's really a professional type of thing done, something I couldn't have done any better than I could do woodworking. All right. Well, we're halfway through our year. You know, this is really halfway through already. I'm looking forward to you, Jan, really. But it's a perfect time, as we had promised, to do a member check-in survey. And we all know that we've been going through lots of different changes this year. We're at a new venue today. We're doing different things in the way we're operating as a club. We're trying to increase our membership. And our Future Vision Task Force has been working extremely hard, and our implementation team has done a stellar job. I can't even believe how wonderful all of the time and energy has been spent on this, that will all come to fruition by the end of the year, and our next Rotary year will be nice and smooth for Jan, I know. The survey that you're going to be getting, and I do hope everybody here and those that are watching us online will participate in the survey, because it's really important to get your feedback as to what we're really doing here. We have different ideas. Everybody seems to have different ideas on what we should be as a club and how we should meet and where we should meet and what type of food we have, all of these different things, and how our programs are, and whether they're in person or whether they are on Zoom. All of these things are so important to hear about, and that survey is going to be so important. So please do that. The last year's survey, we got 130 responses. Well, we really need 300 responses, not 130 responses, because we really want to hear from each and every one of us. You know, my little note said, we hope we can get 130 people. Well, I hope we can get 300 people to. It doesn't take that long, and it's a multiple choice, so you won't have to say a whole bunch of stuff, for goodness sakes. So fill out your survey. It will be coming to you, and we really want to hear from you. The implementation team needs to know, because it's all going to be our future next year, and maybe later this year. Who knows? Well, anyway, now I'm going to call, we're going to switch gears again and call upon one of the things from our implementation team, a new thought. Whether I like it or not, we'll see. I won't give you my personal opinion on it yet, but I'm gonna I, well, come on up, Sue. Come on, Nicole. Let's hear from you guys, Susie.
Building relationships through more active. Okay. Building relationships through more active, intentional member engagement. One of the ideas that came up frequently this fall was members who talked about going to other Rotarian meetings and enjoying the happy bucks. Now John doesn't, but everybody else I've talked to does. And so we tasked, oh, you can stand. Oh, okay. We tasked Jim Moore, or maybe he volunteered, to come up with a plan for how we could implement Happy Bucks at this meeting. Yep. He said that he came up with a plan that has an auction because he thought that everybody would want to, share some good news. So his plan for an auction is that at meetings, we have just a few minutes at the beginning or the end where people bid to be able to share, half a minute at the microphone and share their good news or their, engagement, what's going on with them that everyone would like to know. One of the reasons this is helpful and people found it at other Rotary meetings is because then they learned something about the other member. It was a good topic for conversation, and also it's just sharing the joy. So we're going to start. We're going to have, at some meetings, we're going to give you advance notice. We're going to ask you to bring cash because we can't figure out how to Venmo it to an account yet. And we're going to let the 3 top bidders get a chance at the microphone. Then the very top bidder, who we think is, Daddy Warbucks, Mr. Big Bucks bidder, will get to designate what charity the money goes to. Maybe Harvest Against Hunger or SRSF, Wellspring, something like Rotary Boys and Girls Club, something like that. Now, Nicole, isn't it amazing that we actually have some bidders in the audience today?
Is that correct? Do we? Anyone? Wave that money. Oh, yes.
Sarah, what's your amount? Okay, well, I hope someone can beat that. Any other bids? Oh, I like that one. Let's go up from there. Pardon me? Jim, what'd you say? Oh, well, okay, we're going to you added 21 we've got. What else? 22, 25. Who's 25? Yeah, right, Asinta. Where else are we going? Jim. He's an advocate, isn't he? Anybody else? Okay, $30. Going once? No hundreds in the crowd? Okay. Going twice. Jim, you're the top bidder. All right.
Obviously a ringer. So my happy report is that last year, 3 of our kids, that is people that lived with us because they were refugees, became U.S. citizens. Medhamit Damo Abebe from Ethiopia, who now lives in Linwood with her family. Yasser Al-Tamimi from Iraq, and Zainab Al-Tamimi, his sister, also from Iraq, and she's a physician now at UW.
Okay, I sort of thought the top bidder was going to say that he actually had the winning $1.6 billion lottery ticket. So that was good news, Jim, but I'm a little disappointed. All right, so from now on, we're going to start doing this at meetings. We will send notice out in the, the newsletter on Friday. We'll send you another notice to remind you to bring cash, and then one more text just to make sure you don't forget. So thank you so much. We look forward to doing this.
Well, I know you want to do it with cash, but believe me, if you have something really urgent and the bidding goes really higher, we'll figure out a way to take the money. We don't need the cash. Bring a check, give me your credit card number, and I'll be happy to make sure that it gets plugged in. So no, it doesn't need to be cash. I will make a change on that, even though I'm not a big Happy Bucks fan. This is really, it's fun to hear about all of this, you know, and I think that that's also good. Now, we actually got done a little bit earlier than we thought. Yeah, I mean, my schedule said, but that's okay. I can talk a little longer, you know. Anyway, I do have some closing remarks, and my closing remarks have to do with what happened on this day, one way or another. So, January 8th, 1790, the first U.S. president, George Washington, delivers the first State of the Union address. 1918, Mississippi becomes the first state to ratify the 18th Amendment to the Constitution. Anybody know what that was? Yeah, prohibition. Leave it to Mississippi. All right. What? Somebody said, never mind. 1909. 1909, Charles de Gaulle, oh, it's 1959. I can't read my own writing. 1959, Charles de Gaulle was inaugurated as president of France's Fifth Republic. France had lots of republics. I just finished a book about World War II in France. You know, that was the Third Republic. They just keep having republics. All right. And 2021, Twitter bans US President Donald permanently due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Remember, that's Twitter. Now it's X. He's not banned anymore. Birthdays, 1935, Elvis Presley. 1942, Stephen Hawking. 1947, David Bowie. It happens to be National Bubble Bath Day. And just because we're talking about our Huskies today, last year, 2024, the University of Michigan defeated the U of W in the national championship. I didn't want to leave you on a downer on that, but you know, there's one thing that was sort of interesting. My wife has 2 degrees from the UW, 2 degrees from Michigan, and she said she was going to be happy with either outcome of that championship. Anyway, but I only have 2 degrees from UW, and so I was not happy. But anyway, have a great rest of the day. Happy New Year, and I hope you enjoyed the new venue today.